This episode of the Cork and Entertainment Show is brought to you by Black Box Prompter. Are you a musician tired of being tethered to your tablet or music stand? Do you long to connect with your audience on a deeper level, but find yourself constantly glancing down at your lyrics and chords? Then I highly recommend Black Box Prompter, the smart and stealthy lyrics and chords teleprompter designed to liberate musicians from the stage clutter. This innovative device is perfect for bands, hobbyists jamming out in the garage, touring pros rocking arenas, and even houses of worship looking to elevate their services. It discreetly displays your lyrics and chords, allowing you to maintain eye contact with your audience, adding an extra layer of authenticity and connection to your performance. Don't let distractions hold you back. Unleash your full potential and create a more powerful connection with your audience with Black Box Prompter. Click the link in our episode description and use the promo code Corcoran at checkout for 10% off your purchase. Black Box Prompter, the smart teleprompter built for musicians by musicians. The Corcoran Entertainment Show is brought to you by Podmatch, the ultimate platform designed to connect podcast hosts with prospective guests effortlessly. Are you a podcaster looking to elevate your show to new heights? Or perhaps you're a guest hoping to share your story with a broader audience. Whatever your podcasting goals are, we have the perfect solution for you. Podmatch simplifies the entire process of discovering guests for your show or finding podcasts to feature your expertise. Now imagine a platform where you can easily match with like-minded creators tailored specifically to your niche. With Podmatch, you can effortlessly network with influencers and thought leaders, all while staying true to your podcast vision. There are a multitude of ways that Podmatch can help you grow your brand. You can be part of a thriving community of podcasters and potential guests. Engage, collaborate, and grow together. If you're ready to experience these fantastic benefits for yourself, we invite you to join Podmatch today. Head over to www.joinpodmatch.com/Cork and Entertainment and sign up right now for only $6 a month. That's right, you heard me right, $6 a month. Join the Podmatch family today and watch your podcast soar to new altitudes. Thank you for tuning into the Cork and Entertainment Show, and happy podcasting. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cork and Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran. How's it going today? Everyone having a good week, good month? Hope everyone had a good St. Patrick's Day. Didn't party too hard or anything like that. Before we start the show today, I'm always doing plugs for local events here for anybody who's listening in the Miramichi and surrounding areas. So I want to give a little plug for the Tartan Day dinner/concert that is Sunday, April 6th at the Beaverbrook Kin Center, 100 Newcastle Boulevard. Supper at 5 p.m., followed by Scottish music. This is sponsored by the Highland Society and the 68th Miramichi Folk Song Festival. Menu caters to special diets, and please state when you're ordering tickets. They are $40 each, and by reservation only on or before March 31st. Call 506-622-1780, or you can also email Susan Butler at susanbutler@explorenet.com, and Explorenet is spelled XPLORNET. Just want to make sure that we spelled that right because people will be typing in EX, and that's not how it is. Lots of great music. Donna and Tyrone Hubbard, Melanie Ross, Norman Young and Friends, Villagers. Definitely be sure to come support those amazingly talented folks. And it's great that there's so much going on in the community. I'm a big community person. I'm always about just there being lots in the city, especially ever since COVID and everything like that. It's just nice to be back with all this stuff. But anyways, moving on with the show today. My guest today, very excited to have him on, Nathan Catucci. He's a filmmaker known for making such films as Impossible Monsters, and his short film Rabbit is going to be shown at the Horrorhound weekend in Cincinnati on March 22nd, and in Boston at the Boston Underground Film Festival on March 23rd. So very excited to have him on here today. We had a great conversation. So we talk about a lot of things. We talk about, just filmmaking as a whole, directing, writing, you name it, and great conversation. And anybody who happens to be in those areas during that weekend, definitely be sure to go on out and show some support for Nathan and his film. He will be there. And so He also wanted to make sure that he gave credit to his producer, Dorita Maith. He neglected to include her in the interview, and he wanted to make sure that she was given the credit that she deserves. So, credit to her, Dorita Maith, and it's always a team effort. It's a huge team effort making projects like that, and really like that Nathan still wanted to make sure that she was acknowledged for her hard work and stuff. So later in the show, I want to give my thoughts on some recent comments from Ayo Edebiri, who let's just say Elon Musk has been stirring the pot a little bit, and it's all crashing down on her. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and also the new Lilo and Stitch trailer. And could this make $1 billion? What do I think of the trailer? Well, let's talk about it. Anyways, guys, without further ado, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show today. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I am your host, Franky Corcoran, and today I am joined by a acclaimed filmmaker who his latest short film, Rabbit, for anybody listening, you can catch that over at the Boston Underground Film Festival and Horrorhound. That's March 23rd or 22nd and 23rd. His new short film, Rabbit. Nathan Catucci. Nathan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you coming on. And so for your short film, now this is always something I like. I like to ask people too, because I mean, you've also done some feature length films, which, feature length films, they're feature length, But is it difficult when you're doing shorter films? Like, is that kind of affect the creative process behind it, where a short film you have limited time, whereas a feature film you have more time? So how are the two processes different?
It's a good question. I actually think short films in a lot of ways are very hard to do because you do have a very finite amount of time, and you're still trying to uh, tell a story, set the world, and create the characters within that short amount of time. And features, you have 90 minutes, and where we did Rabbit, we try to do a short in just a couple of minutes, and we wanted to illustrate our characters and show the world in which they live. And so I find short films to be challenging in that respect. But the process in terms of how you create the film, I think is similar. You find the story that you want to tell, and you kind of build it really from the ground up. I look at the foundation of any project really is a script. So whether that's a short film or a feature, it's the story, right? Story is king. And all the elements that you kind of build on top of that are built sort of brick by brick on top of that foundation, and working with your producers, working with your cinematographer, your production designer, gaffers, sound, music. In Rabbit, we had a little special effects. So we kind of just still followed that process of building the world from the foundation of the story.
Okay, awesome. Because yeah, I always kind of wondered that whole process. Because as I said, limited time. It's almost like it's kind of like the difference between doing a radio interview versus doing a podcast interview. Whereas radio, you have limited time to say everything that you want. Like if we were doing this on the radio now, we would be like on a time limit. I'd be like, okay, hurry up, tell the story, because
Mhm.
but in this case where it's podcast, it's like, yeah, go on as long as you want. We can make a feature length right now if we wanted to, audio film if we really wanted to. Um, but as a director, I was kind of curious, what is your directing style? Like, how would you kind of describe it? Like, as you say, if the right script is attached with the project, is it the right cast? Like what kind of makes or enhances your directing style? Is it the script? Is it the actors? Is it just the production as a whole? Like, how would you describe it?
Um, for me, I start with the script and I kind of spend a lot of time sort of creating the world on paper. So I'll look at everything from photographs, art. Um, I do a lot of running. So a lot of times in the morning when I go for a run in Central Park, I'll listen to different types of music that might kind of inform my creative process for that story and sort of create the world that I want to tell in my mind. And then I sort of start kind of collecting all these materials um, into we can call it a book. Um, and from there, I start bringing on sort of my team members, really, whether it's working with, like in the case of Rabbit, like my producer, DeRocha Mate, my cinematographer, Kenneth Keeler, production designer, James Bartol, our special effects makeup artist, Rashida Bolton. Um, I spent a lot of time working with my storyboard artist, Mercer Bothy. Um, and, you know, what I like about creating film is there's so much, it's a team effort. It's not just me. So I might spend a lot of time sort of in my head putting the creative together, but then I bring all these ideas to my team members and with their skill and their creative, we we kind of build from there. And I always appreciate I try to look at it as finding truth through questions. So I invite my crew and my cast to just constantly ask questions and really get to the truth of the story, and that's how we kind of bring it out on film. And so I see my role as a director as working to get a team of crew members, cast members to work together towards a single vision, as opposed to like, I don't see my role as like telling people what to do per se. I see my role as sort of a team builder. And that carries itself through the pre-production, carries itself through on set when we're shooting, and it carries itself through in post-production when we're doing the edit, when we're doing the sound design. In this case, on Rabbit, it was Rich Cutler, and the music, and which was done by Michael McAllister, and really also when we're shooting, I should just mention, go back a little bit. There's always, I think, like the more prepared you are going into production, the more ability you have to be flexible and adaptable on the day of shooting. And that's where other crew members can really bring out new ideas and fresh ideas, because you spend so much time working on these projects. Even a short, you spend a lot of time with it. It really requires everybody to bring fresh ideas to it. It just kind of constantly breathes new life into the project. And going back to what you were asking about, the difference between a feature and a short, in a feature, you live with a project not quite as long. The process isn't quite as long. And you only may, in the case of Rabbit, we only had a day of shooting. But on a feature, you may have, like on my first feature, we had 18 days of shooting. So that process requires even more, I think, teamwork to constantly breathing life in the project and making it better.
I mean, like you talking about teamwork and I always say art is collaborative, and that's one of the best parts about it. Um, and but then there's also times where you also, as a director and as the top producer or whatever your role is, it's always a matter too of making sure that your vision also stays true. How do you kind of balance uh that with, also you want to hear people's ideas? Like if the lead actor has an idea on how this should be shot, whether it's his place to say it or not, it's a good idea, okay, but that's not really what I'm going for. Like, how do you kind of deal with also like listening to people's ideas, but then also where do I take them? Where do I draw the line and say no? It's also my vision, but you also want to be open and encourage people to speak their mind. So how do you kind of balance that?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you are a good listener. I think directing really is about listening. It's about being able to listen when people have questions or people have ideas. Um, and some of those questions or ideas may not fit the vision at hand. But that's where my responsibility as a director starts really on paper. It starts with the script, it starts with my director's notes, it starts with kind of that that world building that I spend all that time watching films, listening to music, looking at artwork, photographs, and putting it together in a way that I'm clear on what I want and what I'm my direction. But I think if a team member has a question or a thought that can improve upon it, we'll go with it. And sometimes, some ideas or thoughts or questions may not work, and we just kindly say, let's try going in this way. But I think a lot of it is the responsibility for me, at least I see my role, is to do my homework up front. And I spend, like I said, I spend a lot of time on paper. I storyboard every frame. I, and my storyboards are terrible. They're like stick figures. But I have, I work with my friend Mercer Boff, who's an excellent storyboard artist. He's also an actor. Mercer and I went to NYU together, and we've been working together since college. And so a lot of times, um, he can somehow translate my stick figures in a way that he can improve, and he understands like the camera angles of what I'm going for. But sometimes Mercer may have questions like, "Well, what do you think if we added a shot of this character for this line?" Or and I'll be like, that does make sense. I didn't think about it. That didn't occur to me for whatever reason, but let's add that in. And from there, like when I'm working with our production designer, James Bartol, I had all these kind of ideas and textures I was looking for, but James took took my direction and sort of broke it down into you know different types of color palettes and different types of textures that could better bring out that vision. And like when I work with James, he's very visual. He's always creating boards. Um, and I also worked with our cinematographer Kenneth Keeler. We spent a lot of time in the pre-production process. Spent more time in pre-production than shooting the actual film. But we had taught. We shot this on 16 millimeter film, and I hadn't shot a 16 millimeter project in a very long time. My first feature was shot digitally, um, but I the story is about it is really it's about a child who unleashes a malevolent force as their mother's making dinner, and it's really at its core it's the relationship between this mother and child. That's really what we're looking at, that tension there. And so a lot of it is all subtextual. There's no dialogue in this short film. And, every choice that's made through the camera, through the production design, through the sound design, through costumes, it has to serve the narrative. to bring out that subtext. And so we did, when we talked about shooting 60 millimeter, Kenny and I spent time shooting a bunch of 16 millimeter tests at New York City Camera Company. Kenny has also had a lot of film stock that he would just shoot with stills on his still camera, and we would test different. We would test uh, different film stocks and under different lighting conditions and see what was kind of going to push our textures and our subtext further. Um, and I think also for this project for Rabbit, we got very lucky. I had wanted a kind of isolated rural farmhouse, and I didn't have one when we started. And we kind of started we started looking around the Hudson Valley in New York State. Um, and we got very lucky because we found this Victorian farmhouse that was built in the 1890s, and this couple had bought it during COVID, but prior to that, it had been abandoned since the 70s. It had been a like VA um, outpatient hospital, and so it was totally abandoned, and it was just filled with so much texture, and they kept all the original elements of it, and they're in the process of renovating, and they're doing a beautiful job. But it was just such a beautiful piece of architecture. I mean, it had like a slate roof. It had old glass that was like over 100 years old in the windows. I mean, it fit the story. And so when we found that really served as the kind of visual direction that we all started coalescing around and building the story around. And it was a lot of fun. And the property was even more eye-opening when we started doing tech scouts, because we found that they had this this like stone root cellar that had been built into a hill. I had never seen anything like that, and it was from the 1800s, and it just had a lot of character to it. And I think, kind of going back to your question, I think like when I do my homework and I spend the time working with my team in pre-production, we show up on the day of shooting with a very clear vision of what we want to achieve together. And then, and we're able to kind of, capture the film as such. And it also, I mean, what also makes it exciting when you're shooting the film is like we have all these ideas, but then we have other crew members that come on for the day to shoot. So whether it's our gaffer Julia Stubbs, who had some really good ideas about adjusting light a certain way to capture, because we shot a lot of this in light and dark. And also, my brother was a Steadicam operator, Devin Catucci. He had a lot of great ideas about how to move the camera and move it through the space and around the characters, because that plays into it. All of these things sort of play into the language of the film that we're creating. And that language is really what the audience is experiencing and what they're taking away from it after watching it. And it's been really interesting to see and hear feedback from the audience just on this 2-minute 16 millimeter film that we shot.
This episode of the Cork and Entertainment Show is brought to you by Taylor Brands. Are you ready to take your brand to the next level? Whether you're launching a new business, scaling your side hustle, or just want to give your existing brand a glow up, then I highly recommend you check out Taylor Brands. Taylor Brands is an all-in-one branding platform that empowers entrepreneurs and creatives like you to express your unique identity online. Their user-friendly platform helps you design logos, business cards, social media posts, and all the promotional materials that you need to get your brand noticed. And it doesn't stop there. With Taylor Brands, you'll also get access to powerful tools to manage your social media presence and create high-quality marketing content, all tailored specifically for your brand. Join the thousands of satisfied entrepreneurs who have transformed their business identities with Taylor Brands. Sign up today and use the link in our episode description to let Taylor Brands know that we sent you. And then all the hell that you went through and all the hard work and stuff like that, it then feels worth it. All those late days and all those long days, and it's. I mean, like I've never made a movie before, but seeing the process of it and just everything that goes on behind the scenes with pre-production. You say, is that probably the most ambitious aspect of filmmaking, or would you describe post-production or production? Like which of the three productions is the most ambitious?
Most ambitious. Well, that's a tough question because I think that a movie, especially a short is this is one thing that is different between the shorts and the features, but um, a movie it takes so much to move uh, to kind of bring it to life in each so in pre-production, in production, in post-production, and ultimately getting it and into distribution. It takes so I feel like all of it takes a lot of ambition. I think that um, when you're starting at the very beginning in pre-production, it's very exciting because you're sort of you're you have free reign, so to speak, in terms of like the world that you want to create, and then you kind of get through that process and you see where you kind of land with the financing and the budget, and then you have to adjust accordingly for the production. And then that's where, like, I think in the production, there's a lot of problem solving that comes into play in terms of, you know, okay, we want to shoot this scene this way, but we don't really have the budget to do it. How can we approach it in a new way that that still kind of gets to the truth of what we want to tell. And a lot of times, what's exciting about that moment in production is that um, you sometimes discover things that you weren't even thinking about in your problem solving, and it ends up being better than what you initially conceived on paper in the pre-production portion. And then, when you get to after you have your film in the can, so to speak, and you go to the edit, it's you're watching all this footage and you're like trying to figure out, all right, well, how do I put this all together? And it's a lot of, in terms of like how I like to edit, it's a lot of um, trial and error in some ways in terms of going from like your assembly to your rough cut to your second rough cut and ultimately to your final cut. And then again, it gets new life breathed into it when your sound designer comes on board and starts coming up with different sound effects and creating the world, um, creating the different layers of sound that an audience is going to experience. And in the case of Rabbit, Rich Cutler did the sound design, and our composer Michael McAllister did the music, and they really worked together to sort of create the feeling that we're experiencing and watching just this 2 minutes. And then we move on to the more the ambitious part of the fourth part, and that's just putting it out in the world and seeing how it plays with an audience. And so I feel like filmmaking, no matter what part of the process, it's all ambitious. Um, and I that's partly what makes it exciting because it's a challenge. It is a challenge, whether it's a short film or a feature film. And for us, this has been really exciting because as this film was making its way in the festival circuit, we've been working on developing it as a feature film that we hope to shoot shortly. Um, and so it's been a very interesting process in in creating the short, then seeing how audiences are reacting to it, and while we're working on the script, and kind of evolving and continuing to build the world that our characters will inhabit in the feature film.
Yes, and when you're writing the scripts and stuff like that too, because you mentioned seeing the audience reaction, that also kind of helps fuel your creativity and like, okay, what can we do next and this and that. When you write some of your movies and stuff, do you write them with the intention of, I think we could get a sequel out of this, or do you write them as just this is a one and done, but we'll see what happens next? What do you go into the script writing process? What's the mindset like?
For me, I just focus on the story at hand and the characters. I don't think about like whether it's a sequel. I try not to think about budgetary limits.
Is this
I
going to
think
be
that
the next Marvel Cinematic Universe?
no, no, no. This is actually is much smaller. In some ways, it's a smaller project than my first feature, um, but it's there's a lot more subtext to it, and so it's a much more complicated film in terms of the richness of the characters. Um, and that's what's exciting about it. But I think like I can't approach writing as thinking about like oh maybe we're gonna make a sequel or we're gonna this is how much money we're gonna make or we're gonna have or I try also not to think about oh we're not gonna have enough money so let's not write this. I think writing's hard. Writing's very hard. Um, I admire great writers because I find it's one of the more challenging parts of filmmaking that I find. Um, but I try to just allow myself to be in the moment and be present when I'm writing the script. And I think, there's certainly, as we've done a couple of drafts, as the short film has been on the festivals, and it's been in some ways it's been really great to see like what it is what the audiences are reacting to in this like 2 minutes because it helps kind of um it it helps bring me back to what the, the story is that I want to tell and and just really search for that in the spine of the script.
No, absolutely. And as you said, it's always great writers is always something that it's difficult to write a script. That's one thing. And so it's also difficult when you're trying to tell a good story, but you're also trying to stay within the budget, but then like you said, I mean, how difficult can that be where you're trying not to think about budgetary reasons? Oh, we can't shoot this because of this and X amount of dollars, blah blah blah. How do you not think about that stuff when I mean, like, what are the difficulties, I guess, when you're trying to write it, but always thinking about, okay, can we afford this? Can we afford that? Because budget is everything too. I mean, like, you can write a good script and everything, but how are we going to get the budget to film this or use these effects? Like, how do you kind of manage that?
I think I think for me it's I first want to just get a script. I want to get a story. I want to write the story that I want to tell. And then from there, it becomes more along the lines of, all right, how do we go from the creative process to the logistical process, which is where, the financing will come into play. And, it may be, um, maybe we'll have X amount of dollars or not. And, do we move forward with this project or do we adjust the script accordingly to fit, the budget that we have? Or do we work on another script? I have another project that I worked on that we still want to make. It's a much bigger project than this, and I will make it one day, but it's probably not going to be my next project. And my next project is going to be the feature version of Rabbit, and that's what we're putting together now.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And did you ever picture that you would want to do that as a feature film? Because of course it's a short film, but did you ever imagine that this is where it would end up, or is it one of those things that we mentioned that that's just make the first one, see what happens. If it's a hit, then let's do more with it. Is that kind of what Rabbit started off as?
I think there was always a kernel of an idea and a premise for a feature. Um, and but I started with, you know, kind of creating the short first, because I was eager to just shoot something, and as luck would have it, we were able to kind of get everyone together for a day, uh, and we had a few rolls of film, and it just we were able to kind of put this all together to shoot the short. Um, but in my mind, I was always thinking about the feature version, and it certainly developed. It developed from there. Once we shot it, it we really started developing it, and then, you know, once we started seeing it play at different festivals and hearing feedback and audience reactions, it was encouraging, and also, you know, made us it made me kind of think about things that were working, you know, elements that were working really well in the story, and, you know, continuing to just explore the characters, because I think that's really what, you know, the premise of the, you know, of these two characters together, um, was really what I just continued to explore in the future.
And that's good. Like always one thing, let's make the first one first, or first off, let's finish the script first and then we'll deal with what comes next. It's not like it's a Batman or a Marvel or Star Wars where it's like we can guarantee we can get 20 films out of this. It's like, well, no, like let's just start with one, see how it goes, see how people like it, and then we'll kind of take it from there. So we were talking about rabbits. So where can you tell us again? It is going to be at the Bloodhound and the Boston Underground Film Festival. Feel free to elaborate on that. Or Bloodhound? What did I say?
It's Horrorhound. Yeah,
Horrorhound.
it's
Why did I
going to
say
be.
Bloodhound?
Yeah, it's okay.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's going to be at Horrorhound weekend on March 22nd in Cincinnati, and then it's going to be at the Boston Underground Film Festival on March 23rd, in Boston, and I will be at the Boston Underground Film Festival on March 23rd in Boston. It's going to be at the Brattle Theater. And we're looking forward to sharing it with audiences. Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on all of your success with not just this project, but I mean, all the projects that you've done. And I'm excited to see what you do next in terms of, more shorts, more features. I mean, of course, as you said, you're doing the feature for Rabbit. It's awesome to hear. And we need more, there's never not enough films and stuff like that out there. Like there's always a need for art, especially in today's world. And so I applaud you for the work that you've done in keeping all that alive. So thank you for coming on the show today, Nathan. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So where can people find you on social media or stuff like that? Do you have any Instagrams or anything like that?
Yeah, please follow me on Instagram at Nathan Catucci. We'll be posting about this project Rabbit, and as the feature for Rabbit develops, and you can see, and as well as screenings. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, we are going to take a short break. We will be right back. But until then, this is Franky and Nathan Catucci signing off. Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cork and Entertainment Show. That was me and Nathan Catucci. Definitely, guys, for anyone who's in Cincinnati or Boston, March 22nd in Cincinnati and March 23rd in Boston. Of course, Cincinnati is Horrorhound, and March 23rd in Boston is the Boston Underground Film Festival, where he will be there for his short film, Rabbit. So thank you, Nathan, for coming on. Really appreciate it. And it's always nice when you have people listening from all different parts of the world, because if my local listeners don't like it, then maybe somebody who's listening in the States, they'll kind of they might check it out. One person hears about it and then it all gets passed down. So thank you, Nathan, again, for coming on. So let's move on to our first solo discussion topic today. And the first solo discussion topic today is going to be with regards to Pirates of the Caribbean. So you guys know every time I talk about it, it's kind of weird. What's the status on Pirates 6? And that was one topic I talked about recently. What the hell's going on with it? Are we getting it? Are we not? They say Johnny Depp's coming back. They say he's not. They say that they're working on a script. They say they're rebooting it. They say they're doing 6. They say it's not a reboot. Like, it's just crazy to me. But now the latest update we have on it isn't really an update per se. It's an update that Elon Musk is just this is just weird. It's kind of funny that this is just how things go. Like, to me, it's kind of funny. So Ayo Edebiri, who of course she stars in The Bear. I haven't seen The Bear, but I hear really good things about it. So she has been receiving death threats essentially because of Elon Musk. This is on ctvnews.ca. According to Ayo Edebiri, she was just having a quote-unquote silly, goofy time when reflecting on what she said was Elon Musk contributing to a lot of negativity aimed at her. The Bear star posted on social media over the past few days about an incident last year that she said resulted in racism and death threats against her. According to her Instagram story, Musk amplified a post falsely claiming that the actress was being considered to replace Johnny Depp in a new Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Musk had responded to the fake post on X, commenting, "Disney sucks." Disney is the studio over the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. And so this is what Edebiri said. Just remembering when I got some of the most insane death threats and racial slurs of my life. I don't know if it's the number one moment, but for sure top 3 for a fake reboot of a movie I had never even heard of because of this man. And I just even just thinking about that. So after posting about Musk, she shared a private message from a friend who suggested that Edebiri would actually be great starring in a Pirates film. Wait, no, DEI, but I've changed my mind and maybe we could talk, and maybe we could make some money. IDK, let me know. So it was clear that was being typed and texted and stuff. So basically on Wednesday, this was last week. Stop making my Instagram stories news. I'm just trying to have a silly, goofy time. And that is, of course, Ayo Edebiri. So really, I mean, in terms of Pirates of the Caribbean news, I don't even think this would really be considered news because there's not really any news in this thing, really. I mean, it's not like they confirmed that Ayo Edebiri is going to be starring in Pirates of the Caribbean 6 or reboot, whatever it is. To her, she's like, I never even heard of it. I don't know, maybe she's playing the game of she has to play dumb or whatever, but I don't know. To me, it seems like, I kind of believe her in this scenario where she is just like, why are people suggesting this and this and that? And to me, I really don't understand the whole death threat situation. That's kind of the thing I really wanted to focus on with this with this whole topic is death threats sent to somebody who is just trying to... Now, whether the rumors were true or not, the reports that she was going to be in Pirates of the Caribbean, whether it's true or not, put that aside. Putting that aside, it's ridiculous and insane that we live in a world now that people feel the need that they have to make death threats to actors or people working in the business who were just in the public eye. Because when you look at it, they're normal people at the end of the day. It's not like these people want to be in the public eye. You know what I mean? People who work in like, fast food and stuff like that, who they're not publicized all around the world. Like, oh, that's so and so. They work at a McDonald's in, I don't know, Cincinnati. I'm just saying Cincinnati because that's the first thing that came up because we were talking with Nathan on the show. So to me, I just think it's so weird. Like somebody who's just trying to do her thing, she's just trying to live her life as an actress, and people, any type of situation where, whether it's a rumor or it's even a career choice she makes, why people feel the need that they have to send death threats to that person, to me, is just asinine. I don't know what it is that that compels people for this stuff here. Like, this reminds me a lot of when Josh McDermott, of course, from The Walking Dead, when his character on the show, and this was no fault of his own, he was just doing what was written, he was doing his thing, he was acting as the character, where the character betrays our main group of survivors, and because of his actions, or the character's actions, sorry, they were sending the actor death threats. Not, you know what I mean? First off, like, for something like this where it's fictional, why are we making such a big deal about a fictional story? Is to me is just beyond me. I really, really don't understand that. There's a difference between expressing your opinion. I mean, you guys will know I express a lot of opinions on this show, but a lot of it isn't it isn't me. I'm not comparing it to some of the crazy things that are going on in the world, like Ayo talked about, Elon Musk. I could go on a whole tirade about Elon Musk and what I think of him, but I'm not going to do that because that's not what this podcast is about. So when I give my opinions on, what's the latest news on movies and this and that and actors and doing this and that, I'm just giving my honest takes on it. I'm giving my honest takes on it, what I actually think about it, and things like that. Because frankly, if I were to do a show where if I was just very one-sided and praised every decision that Hollywood ever made, that would be kind of boring. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to just be the guy who just kisses ass and all that stuff. Kisses ass and takes names. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just here to give my honest opinion, what I think about it, and that's all it comes down to. There's nothing about, this is what I think they should do, or so-and-so should die, blah, 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 blah. There's a difference between expressing your opinion and just saying that, okay, maybe in my opinion, I don't really know Ayo Edebiri very well. Maybe in my opinion, would she be good in a Pirates film? I think she could. Absolutely, I think she could. I'm sure people thought Johnny Depp would have been good in Pirates, and now it's hard to imagine any movie in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise without him. So, but the way I see it is, like, expressing opinions versus actually making real death threats to people are two very, very different things. You can shit on a movie, you can shit on someone's decisions or whatever. I could shit on the decision for Ayo Edebiri if I wanted to, but that doesn't compare to sending real death threats, saying that person should die and this and that. You could always say, I don't think that person's right for the role. If they casted somebody for a role that you just don't think they were right for, then you're well within your right to do so. Like Jesse Eisenberg, whenever he was cast as Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman, I still didn't like him as Lex Luthor. But if I say that doesn't mean that I'm sending him death threats or anything like that. I'm just saying I just don't think he was right for that part, and it's not his fault. He was given the part, and obviously, work an actor, you gotta take it. That's that's how you live. But yeah. Anyway, that's kind of my take on that. I just think it's one thing to express your opinion, but it's also another thing to just be completely like, this person should die for doing that. Like, what, they should die for living and doing a job that they love? Like, to me, it makes no sense. But anyway, that's just my opinions on that. Definitely be sure to let me know your thoughts. Are people going overboard? If you say they aren't, then maybe I don't know. I guess I'll disagree with you. I was just gonna say something like maybe we'd send death threats to you. What I mean, that's what society's like. If we don't agree with someone, then automatically death threat this, death threat that. So I'm not doing that. I'm not like that. But anyways, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments and all that stuff. And so our last solo discussion topic today is going to be talking a little bit about Lilo and Stitch. This is a film. I'll be honest. I actually kind of forgot that they were making a live action remake of it. I used to watch Lilo and Stitch a lot as a kid, watching the movie and stuff like that. Like it's it's a lot of fun. It's Lilo and Stitch. There's not really much you can really go into about it's Lilo and Stitch. That's all there is to it. So of course they're making a live action remake of it. And so it is coming out on May 23rd, 2025. And the trailer just came out. What are my thoughts on it? I think it's really, really good. I really, really do think it's good. It's been a while since I've seen anything with Lilo and Stitch. I haven't watched the movie in years, like since I was a kid. But the nostalgia felt like it was there. Like it just felt like the old days of watching it and stuff like that. We got a pretty good cast in this too. We have Chris Sanders voicing Stitch. The girl who's playing Lilo, Maya Kaloa, is playing Lilo. Fantastic. I think from what I hear, they cast this like to a T. And I think her career is gonna go right off from here. Zach Galifianakis is in it as Dr. Jumba. I can't remember how you pronounce that. The scientist who made Stitch. What was his last name? As I said, it's been so long. But right at the bat, I heard Zach Galifianakis. I said, "Oh, that's awesome." And so yeah, I think we're in for a good movie. I really, really do. Now, what I mainly wanted to talk about in this one was not just giving my thoughts on the trailer and this and that, because I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say other than that it's a first trailer. It looks really, really good. What I wanted to ask and kind of talk about is this going to hit $1 billion? Because that's what people seem to. I saw some internet channels and stuff like that saying that they think this is going to be the biggest movie of the year. I don't think so. Primarily because Avatar 3 is coming out, and I think it's Avatar and James Cameron. It's going to sweep the box office. It's going to absolutely it's going to destroy the box office and wipe its ass with all the other movies. So Avatar 3, that's a given. I could be wrong. I don't see Lilo and Stitch beating friggin' Avatar 3. Like, come on, that's just not asinine, but it's just crazy to think about, to think that would happen. But do I think Lilo and Stitch could hit $1 billion? Now, I know people always ask, what's the big deal if it hits $1 billion? Because it's a big deal because it shows the success of those movies. It shows the impact it's had. And it also showcases that movie theaters aren't dying. That's a big thing. Movie theaters are not dying because these movies still make billions and billions of dollars because people keep going out to see them. And going out to see them in the theater as opposed to just watching it at home on Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu or whatever. So that's why hitting $1 billion, while it might not seem like a lot because nobody, we're not getting paid for it. The studios are the ones who are celebrating and making money and stuff. But it's a big deal for us because then it means, like, if we talk about how the Sonic franchise, like, every time the box office does well for that means, okay, good, we're going to keep on seeing more of these movies. Same deal with Transformers. That's why people say, why don't they stop making Transformers? Well, because people like you keep going to see it. $1 billion, $1 billion, they'd be dumb not to make another one. But now talking about Lilo and Stitch. This is, we're kind of going off on a little rant about that. Lilo and Stitch, is it going to hit $1 billion? I can't see it making $1 billion. Only because, now here's the thing, I could be completely wrong about this. I could be completely wrong because there have been cases where it's proven to be accurate. But I just can't see. I don't think honestly, I don't think audiences really remember too much of Lilo. I mean, I could just be speaking for myself here too, and maybe that's where it's coming from. That's why I'm feeling this. I'm not spitting this as fact. I'm just saying this as this is just my opinion. I don't think Lilo and Stitch has had the impact as some other movies had, in my opinion. Like, it's not like a Toy Story where it makes $1 billion because, you know, people still love it. Shrek is another big one too. I don't think Lilo and Stitch has that, or like Lion King, when they made the live action, or not live action, but the remake, the 2019 version of Lion King. I don't think Lilo and Stitch has that. That's just my opinion. I don't think it has, because I mean, if you go back and look at the box office results of the original 2002 Lilo and Stitch, that made $273 million, which by all means that's not bad at all. That is a really, really good thing. But then you look at, so let's look at the live, or the Lion King box office. So that one at the box office made $978 million. Now, also keep in mind, from that, I mean, this is something we should bring up, is that the Lion King 3D, they re-released it like 10 years ago in 3D, and that added to their box office. So it was probably lesser than that at one point. So I just think it's... I just don't see Lilo and Stitch being like that. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see, not that it hasn't had an impact. Like, people, I'm sure there's still people who watch it all the time and think, what are you talking about? Yes, by all means, that's true. I just don't see it being like a Lion King. Excuse me. I don't see it being like Lion King, where the original animated one made almost $1 billion, and then the remake surpasses that, knocks it out of the water. Lilo and Stitch, I mean, I would say at most, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this movie could be wildly successful, but I could see it maybe hitting 600 million, maybe, at the most. We'll see how wrong I am, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know, it is what it is. But I kind of wanted to just give my thoughts on that, because I know I see so many people saying this is going to be $1 billion film. This is going to be $1 billion film. I think it could be. It's got potential. I just think the chances are, when you look at the numbers and stuff like that, and, as I say, I don't want to, because I hate when people say, oh, this is what's going to happen, and if you think otherwise, you're stupid. I'm not like that at all. This is just what I personally think is going to happen. It's kind of like how I say that Trek 5 is going to be $1 billion film. I'm not going around saying that if you don't believe this, you're dumb. No, this is just what I think. I feel very confident that it's going to hit $1 billion. I don't feel confident that Lilo and Stitch will hit $1 billion. But that's just me. The trailer looks great. I think the movie's going to be great. I think it could be wildly successful, and just hopefully nobody sets it up for failure, so that when it doesn't hit $1 billion, people aren't saying, well, that movie flopped, If it hits 600 million, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, because what's the budget of this new one? The budget doesn't say on it. I'm looking on the Wikipedia thing. It doesn't say. But anyways, be sure to let me know your thoughts on that in the comments and all that stuff like that. And we're going to call it for the show today, guys. I want to thank my guest, Nathan Catucci, for all you Cincinnati and Boston people who are happy to be out there listening. Be sure to check out Rabbit at the Horrorhound weekend in Cincinnati on March 22nd, and on March 23rd, the Boston Underground Film Festival in Boston. So thank you guys for listening to the show today. If you like the episode, or you like the podcast as a whole, be sure to show some support. Leave a nice little rating, review, whatever you prefer. Helps keeps us going, stuff like that. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. But until then, this is Franky signing off. Have a great week, everybody.